Here in for Claire today. Now, on this day, 30 years ago, the body of a woman was found washed up on Burnham Beach. No one knows who she was or where she came from, which is why a new image of her has now been released to try and identify her. BBC Radio Somerset's Luke Knight has more details on this 30-year-old mystery.
Wednesday the 13th, 1993 is where this mystery started, shortly after the fierce Briar storm battered the UK. Whilst out walking their dog, an off-duty Coast Guard discovered the body of a woman near the Low Lighthouse. The emergency call was made, the police turned up, took her away, and that was that. Colin Morris runs the local newsagent in Burnham and remembers the impact the story had on the town.
Well, mainly people were saying there's a body on the beach and the police are up there, and it was all the locals were coming in. They all trying to walk up round and have a nose, and like they do. And really and truly, it was just a case of once the police got there and they just looked around and said, they wouldn't let them anywhere near. But that was it. They took them away, and no report afterwards or anything about it. And I think everybody just wanted to know who it was, but nobody knew anything. So, like I say, we don't know whether she came from or whether she's a local or anything. There's all sorts of rumours. The next day, oh yeah, we know, we all know who it is, but nothing came of it. Nobody knew anything.
Did it make any of the local news back then?
No, I don't think it even made the papers. But they would talk about it for about 2 or 3 days, and then it all just dies away again. But it's a mystery. We get lots of mysteries in Burnham, especially
Yes.
some of the locals come up with all sorts of stories.
Now, 30 years later, a Taunton-based charity, Locate International, has released an online image of what the woman might have looked like before she went in the water and was discovered. Freya Cousins is from the charity.
So she was a white European woman, and we believe she would have been aged between 60 and 70. She was about 5'1", so not particularly tall and of thin build. And she did have very long grey hair, which she wore with a slide clip. Looking at the reconstruction that we've had produced, she is of that 60 to 70 age. Her hair is scraped back. In the description, she had on a beige and green coat that had a dark green fur-lined hood, and she wore a skirt and several cardigans as well. So she was dressed as you would imagine for the weather in January. It's an incredibly detailed reconstruction, so I'd really encourage anyone to just go and have a look at that.
That's the description of her, but also there was some interesting things on her person as well when she was found, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. So she had a gold band ring. We actually aren't too sure which hand this was on. She had a packet of paracetamol tablets as well. They had been purchased from Superdrug. And she also had an after curry mint, which had the word Canzaris on it. Canzaris spelt with a K. So, fairly, in some ways, normal possessions. Again, these could be significant. We're not 100% sure where this after curry mint would have come from, but anything we can learn about what these possessions might lead us to would be hugely helpful.
Say you do find out who she was and find out the story of what happened. I mean, what then? What would you like to do?
There's obviously some formal steps that need to be taken to get to that point, but that dignity in death is hugely important. So, depending on her background and the circumstances, it might be that we'd look to honour her with potentially a gravestone. It could be a service within a community. I guess that really does depend on what else we learn about her circumstances, whether she has surviving relatives, friends. We're not too sure yet.
So for now, the mystery around this woman continues, but anyone with any information is advised to call 0300 102 1011.